Patience probably also modifies my writing in that it puts something of a bridle on either being too damning or too excessively enthusiastic. Sometimes both of those are difficult to avoid. So patience allows you to look at something as part of a process. But patience is also something I've had to learn for myself. It helps me to cope when I'm ready to throw in the towel because I don't seem to be able to convince enough people and even fewer editors of the beauty, complexity, and necessity of dance. Or my frustrations about not having grown up here and not knowing as much as I think I should. Now I want to talk in a few sentences about the how and the why of the writing. I write because I'm trying to figure out how something works. Writing is a process of discovering the what, the how, and the why. You dissect and then you reassemble and put a frame around it. The problem, of course, is that you're dealing with one symbolic language, which is dance, and your tool is another, which is language. But language is what we have, and unless we come up with a way of looking at dance through dance, we are stuck with it. In contradiction to criticism, which is that rare opportunity to dig deeply into a subject to order to understand it better and contextualize it within a larger frame, what I do is reviewing. I review. I look again. By looking at something again, you prolong its lifespan. It's not just establishing a record of something that happened, but it's hanging on to the event itself. The British critic A.V. Cotton wrote sometimes in the late 40s, writing about dance is one way of engaging with a life-giving process. Some writers, those who have a great deal of dance inside them, I'm thinking of somebody like Paul Parrish, who picks up a lot of information almost by osmosis. They respond very kinesthetically. I don't. So I try to nail down, if I may use a very hard metaphor for a very intangible process. I try to nail down the reality of the piece, independent of what I bring to the process, even though I know that this is not really possible. Writing a review is also a private response to a communal event. You attend with other people, share an experience, and then you respond from the inside, and the result again becomes a communal event. It's a circle that closes in on itself. What you always have to deal with, which I find very difficult, is that uncertainty factor, which comes with the reality that dance exists in time, and because of the lack of a relative artifact requires almost immediate understanding. That, and to put the understanding into words, is very hard to do. I thought it would get easier with time, but it doesn't. Oscar Wilde famously said, and somewhat sarcastically, that in order to realize how bad a play is, you have to see it twice. But there is something to that, because also a good play you will have to see again. And just to end, I want to read you something which published in the latest issue of the Movement Research Performance Journal, which was sort of an article remembering Bert Supri, who used to be a writer for the Village Voice. And they're quoting Bert. He says, "We must believe our eyes," he advises. "We need to look at dances in the context of our whole experience. Yet we must try, too, to see the work as a thing in itself, on its own terms, as something possibly new, full of tender potential. We must see it in relation to the past, as an expression of the present moment, as a gesture toward an unknown future."
Thank you, Rita. And now, Anne Murphy.
I want to begin. Okay, I'm not close enough. Yeah, thank you. I want to begin by reflecting on what has happened here this evening. Title: Is Criticism Dead? Gathered before a crowd of dancers and dance-goers at Counterpulse on Mission Street, critics Rita Felciano, Rachel Howard, and Anne Murphy, dance maker activist Keith Hennessy, a panel discussion on the future of criticism. The evening was part 5, introduced by Counterpulse artistic director Jessica Robinson and choreographer Mary Armentrout. We agreed that the evening opened with a summary of the dire state, arts writing. As the economy reels from cutbacks, print journalism foreclosures, dance writing has slowed to a trickle. Reviews are particularly vulnerable. Under these new market conditions, panelists agreed, panelists disagreed. Feature coverage continues to be available in some papers, frequently written by arts editors, soon to clean the office toilets. The move is defended. Advertisers might still advertise coming events. Readers might still use the newspaper. Reviews, which have no perceptible market value, increasingly regarded as superfluous to the goals of print journalism, a narrow digest of news and events. The panel of freelancers represented varied views and opinions. Some felt lucky to be paid. Freelance work is itself endangered. The group noted the long list of layoffs among arts freelancers, a moment of silence. Controversy between the audience and the panelists, flaring over the dangers and opportunities provided by the usurpation of journalism by the internet. No one knew the future. For more details, visit www. I want to begin. I want to begin by saying we are here tonight attempting to forecast the future of criticism. I think the best place to start is with a definition of criticism. We might also want to define forecast. I recommend we think of that as throwing a fishing line out ahead of the current. Criticism often signifies unkind communication that delivers a putative truth laced with barbed wire or soaked in acid. We distinguish good criticism by qualifying it as constructive criticism. Criticism also means a serious examination of something, coming from the Greek word kritikos, meaning one who discerns. I find this definition beautiful, suggestive of an ability to scrutinize what is, the more refined, the better. This is a far more appealing definition of critic than that of appraiser, which is what critics frequently become and is interchangeable with the jeweler on the corner squinting at your grandmother's ring with his loupe. Criticism is like fly fishing. The critic is the fisherman, the art the fish. The critic's job is to bring the fish in. She has the greatest chance the better her flies, the smoother her casting, and the longer and farther she's willing to wade out in her hip waders. The fish is the beauty sought, the mystery to uncover. It's another form of dance. I want to begin by talking about something Keith wrote to Mary. It was in an email conversation they'd been having, something I skimmed the other night. It was designed to spark conversation. This is proof that it has. Keith argues that writing about dance is translating across a language divide that fundamentally cannot be traversed. I say nonsense. Dance is not wholly inscrutable. Dance, like words, music, painting, and sculpture, provoke thought and feeling that arise out of the same sea of concepts, emotion, and memory that we rely on to formulate verbal language. I can say things in Italian that cannot be said in English, but that doesn't mean that I had no concept for stronzo or ingambe. The fact that there's no exact corollary in English doesn't make the word untranslatable. There may be no one-to-one correspondence between them. It may take me several words to do the work of the single Italian word. The question is, do I have a concept for the word? If I do, I can find a means to express it in English, no matter how clumsy. The same with dance. An arm floating behind a dancer's back as she looks down at the floor may have no obvious correspondence to a single word. But that doesn't mean I can't capture the conceptual sense of that moment. The deeper the dance is, the richer each movement, and that usually means